We have an exciting panel here. Wall Street meets XRP. From Teucrium, Sal Gilberetti, and a crowd favorite moderator, Zach Rector. Thank you. Thanks, Sal. Yeah.
Put it in two middles?
Yeah.
All right, folks. Is the XRP family feeling good out here today?
It's great.
Folks, I've been saying the suits are going to be showing up and selling it with slideshow presentations. Now, my guest here, Sal, he's wearing a nice suit. No slideshow presentation, but Sal, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. This is the CEO and founder of Teucrium. Sal, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for being here, and thanks for the support that the XRP fund has found. It's amazing.
How does it feel to have the first XRP futures ETF live in the United States?
Good.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
it feels really good. We got it first because we started with swaps. Everybody else we knew would wait for futures, and I'm a commodities guy, and I knew swaps. And so we did this back-end thing where we got a financial intermediary to give us a swap written on XRP listed in Switzerland, which actually buys SRP. So even though we're a derivatives-based fund, we know for a fact that all the money that's going into that fund, 122 million, has come in 7 weeks. And it's a 2X fund, so that means we've bought 244 million of XRP derivatives, and that means the people who sold us those derivatives bought 244 million of XRP. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and we wanted to get a promise that you weren't going to do a short XRP ETF. That's not allowed. You're not allowed to short, Sal. So can we get that promise from you?
Nobody wants to sell. Nobody wants to sell right now, and we'll wait to see if there's demand. We did file for it. We could do it.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a demand for it right now, and it's pretty expensive to list an ETF and complicated. And so we'll do that when the time is right. It's not now.
Now let's take a step back here. Teucrium, you founded it. You've been in business here for a while. What is the reason why you wanted to jump on the XRP ETF in particular?
So I loved Bitcoin. We were one of the first to file for a Bitcoin ETF. And I'm a commodities person, so I'm just supply and demand. That's what I know. Everybody else, what they're talking about up here on stage, interesting, but I don't understand it at all. And so we loved Bitcoin. We filed for a derivatives Bitcoin. SEC told everybody to withdraw. We did. We watched futures, knew when it was time to file again. And because we were the first and because it got approved, but Gary Gensler, we're not happy. Not happy with
say
it.
that name,
Yeah.
Sal.
Yeah. So not supposed to swear on stage, I know, but
Yeah.
he kind of had everybody leapfrog ahead of us through a rule change. It's complicated, but our fund did get approved, and that was the type of fund that can hold physical. Okay, it's called the 33 Act, and so Grayscale sued the SEC using our fund as a base. If you look up those lawsuits, they were based on the Teucrium fund, and okay, we spent a lot of money and got a fund launched and then sold it because I don't want to be with 10 other funds. And so that's what we did. But Grayscale won based on our back, so we helped the infrastructure along and the ecosystem along. So that's kind of what we were happy with. And then Ether, Solana, I just don't know them. And somebody got me into XRP, an XRP whale friend of mine, and I just believe in it. I believe it has a use case. I believe, as I've been widely quoted, the Ripple people are very professional people. They are single-minded in their purpose. And they're like the Borg, if anybody remembers the Star Trek Borg. They're going toward their goal of creating this ecosystem that's going to support XRP and a lot of other things. And so we believe in it. We want to launch ETFs we believe in, and it was a natural to do XRP. Since no one can actually have a physical XRP exchange-traded fund just yet, it naturally has to be derivatives. Again, I'm a commodities derivatives guy. It was in our wheelhouse. We did it.
Well, I think that you brought us a nice 2X long ETF at a good time. And can you just tell the crowd a little bit about this product and who it would be good for, maybe?
Sure. 2X levered funds, they reset daily. And so people need to understand that if the market goes sideways or down or up very, very slowly, you will lose money. The market has to go up pretty steadily and pretty dramatically for you to make money. And then you make close to 2X. We do our best there are rules that nobody sees that we do a lot of work on behind the scenes. You can't be more than 2x, not ever, not even for one day. And so if you're 200.001%, you get in, there's some forms to fill out and people to answer to that the public doesn't see. And so you do your best to get as close to 2x as possible. And we have liquidity issues. I think right now we're 100% of the Coinbase large size futures, open interest on the buy side. I think we're about 40% of the CME futures. It's hard. It's a big thing to manage because we're trying to find liquidity, and liquidity will build. I think we talked about that earlier, but the price differential just between the futures on Coinbase and the futures on CME, sometimes it's 1, 2, or 3 cents. That's like, really? How can that even be? And so we need more arbitrageurs, but the big Wall Street money is making easier money elsewhere, and they're not completely focused just yet. There are a few firms, Falcon X and Galaxy and others. I don't want to insult anybody by not naming them, but they're big firms trading crypto, doing what the Sam Bankman-Fried described that he was doing. They're actually doing it the real way, legitimately, and arbitraging these differentials out across exchanges. And that's really important for the liquidity. It's really important for the maturity of the XRP and XRP's price in terms of, and again, XRP use case, well, we can get into it if you want, but we need to know how many XRP are used when, what's the velocity. There's that one model, the name I always forget.
Yeah, the Susan Athey, Robbie Mitchnick model.
Mitchnick model. Mm-hmm. That says $4,300 XRP. So that's pretty happy.
Whoa, Sal.
But, any good businessman cuts it in half again, and then maybe thinks about it. And there are a lot of assumptions in that model. There are other models that say $5 XRP. Mm-hmm. So, take your pick in between. I think it'll take time. I think the industry still needs to mature. The XRP overhang, which is substantial, needs to be utilized, and that's going to take a while for the real price explosion that people expect. I think people need to temper their expectations and see that massive gains in XRP aren't going to come, in my opinion, until the overhang is out there because of the use cases developed. And that's going to take a few years, I think.
Yeah. I find it funny you say that you can't do more than a 2x leverage. For some of the degens in the crowd, they are only interested in 20 and 50x leverage. Yeah. These guys are crazy out here with it.
Yeah, they are. And so, but good, crazy in a good way, it's fine. But look, leverage can be really dangerous. So if it's a trading product, they're great, okay? A one-day time horizon or less, that's what's optimal. There were a lot of people we meet that say, hey, I bought it and held it forever. We're not gonna recommend that. We can't recommend that. Not something you should probably do. Buy a 1x if you're gonna hold it forever. If you want the juice, you have to look at a levered product.
Yeah. Now, in terms of other products, as far as XRP, any basket ETFs, any index funds that you might consider or that you think might be on the way?
Yes and yes. I know that there are, just look at any YouTube video, look at any speech that's been given over at Bitwise, okay? Matt Hogan, he believes in the baskets. Okay, he believes that's the next thing that's coming. I don't have any doubt that there will be baskets coming out in ETFs. We need the tokens to mature. So we've got Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, XRP now. We need other ones to mature, and you have to find a way to get them in your portfolio. The restrictions in an ETF are, first off, physical has to be approved. That it's not done yet, except for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And second, you can only have, there's something called a liquidity rule. So if a holding in your ETF portfolio isn't liquid, and you have to be able to prove that with certain metrics, you can't put more than 15% of that in your portfolio. So there are a lot of obstacles to be overcome, but they will be. Yeah. They will be overcome.
How important has this change been in administration, the SEC, the story that you shared with me behind the scenes here about launching other products as well too? You didn't want to jump the gun and basically be attacked for being first to market by Gary Gensler. And so can you tell us a little bit about that story and the change that we now are experiencing?
Sure. That was our backstage story. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's fine. So we knew that so no physical are approved. We didn't want to wait in that line. We're, again, a derivative shop. And we realized futures are coming out. the CME had announced, and Coinbase announced, and Binomial announced as well. And so we wanted to file, but we wanted to file as soon as possible. Trump won the election, pro-crypto, fantastic. But Gensler was still in. When Gensler announced his resignation, we thought, let's file. But our lawyer said, look, Gensler's, he could put a stop order in. And so wait to file. And so we didn't file until the morning after the inauguration. First business minute after inauguration, we filed. And a lot of other people filed too, and that's fine. But if you're not first in ETFs, you lose. You just will have a secondary fund or no fund. So back in the day, I started an oil ETF and a natural gas ETF. They were third and fourth to market. Kept them open for 2.5 years. They were the best performing ETFs in terms of price over those 2.5 years in their sectors. No one bought them. We never had what's called a creation order, ever, so we shut them. So you don't want to be second or third for sure. Right. And to be first, I thought, well, what's our edge going to be? And again, swaps. So we built that mechanism that I said that got us in through basically a Switzerland derivative brought onshore to the U.S. And that got us first. And that, and it also surprised everybody. There was no press around it until we launched, which turned out to be a good thing.
Yeah. Now, can you elaborate on how this product actually drives more demand for XRP? Even though it's cash settled and not physically backed, this allows sophisticated traders and hedge funds to leverage that.
Right. So right now, the trading ecosystem isn't big enough on paper in derivatives for there to be people just holding a book not backed with something. Right. Okay. And right now, it's backed with physical XRP. So we know for a fact when we trade, we'll trade. I guess a contract size is what, 50,000 XRP. We'll trade between 500 and 1,300 at a time, okay, at a clip, and we block trade them. So what you do is you call someone else and say, I'd like to buy futures on this exchange. Let's agree on a price, okay? And we have to meet the settlement, so you agree on a price around the settlement price, and then you block trade it. That's a legal trade that you could do, because you're not allowed to prearrange trades normally under a market, but there are block trade mechanisms where you could do that. And so we'll call people and have those trades come through. We know for a fact they're buying XRP to hedge it. Okay, we knew for a fact on the swap they were buying AXRP, the 21 shares fund in Switzerland that actually owns XRP. Okay, so we knew that when those shares were purchased, XRP was purchased. We know for a fact when somebody sells us a block of Coinbase or CME futures, we know that they're hedging with physical XRP. They tell us that.
Yeah. And now we're starting to see Wall Street really lean into this tokenization and moving these systems, these trading systems, onto DLT technology. Ripple just announced Hidden Road is going to be providing an OTC desk here in the States. So can you just comment on maybe that new development from Ripple and Hidden Road?
It's fantastic. Hidden Road has active OTC out of London. We're a Hidden Road client. We intend to support them as much as we can. It builds out the XRP infrastructure, the whole Ripple ecosystem. We truly believe in it. We'll see how it goes with the fast settlement and all that. So, and for us being a paper derivatives trader, we need multiple counterparties, because when you're holding physical, there's no issue. You have physical, that's the asset. But when you're talking about paper and just money going back and forth, your counterparties get nervous, even your broker. So, if we buy whatever, I guess we bought, over 400 million or over 200 million of XRP. If we just held those physically, it's no problem. But if you're holding them in paper, somebody's got to give you that much credit, okay, or trust. Their balance sheet has to be dedicated towards in case you default on a 2X. There's big price movement, as everybody might know if they're watching those things every day. And so there's a lot of risk control that goes on, and so you need multiple counterparties. Having Hidden Road come in as a counterpart, now wholly owned by Ripple, that's, for us, it's a wonderful development. Them coming into the US is just another step towards XRP usage in the US, and that's really important.
Yeah. One more question on ETFs before we get more insights on Ripple and XRP. Now, we heard from JP Morgan. They predicted 4 to 8 billion of inflows into the spot ETFs year one. Is this conservative? Is it too much? What do you think about that prediction?
I'll go with 8 or higher.
Yeah,
a
little low.
I think they're a little low on XRP. Yeah. I think they underestimate the XRP community. I think they underestimate Ripple. Yeah. The Ripple's Borgness, okay, I'll call it, where these guys are coming. They're building out every day. They're working as we're sitting here speaking. It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah. And we've already got predictions. You mentioned Bitwise. They're predicting 300 billion of capital inflows by the end of 2026 into Bitcoin. And you look at the success of the Bitcoin ETFs already, and you got to think, the XRP ETFs. I think it is a very conservative prediction, 4 to 8 billion. I think we're going to see quite a bit more. I want to get your thoughts though on Ripple and XRP, because you said you went viral on your clip with Bloomberg, calling them investment bakers, and they've been called that before too, right?
They've probably been called worse too.
Yeah. And can you just speak to what stands out to you the most about Ripple and the direction, and how they're basically holding the hand of the incumbents and helping them onboard this technology?
So they're behind the scenes of what everybody can see, okay? The stuff that I don't understand, and probably a lot of people don't understand that gets talked about up here, that's what they're doing. And they've been doing it for such a long time. And if you look at their founders' profiles, if you look at the CVs of these guys, okay, or these people, because there are a lot of people in there, they're mission focused. We can compare them to investment bankers, we can compare them to the military, you compare them to whatever you want. They are mission focused, and they're staying at it. They haven't deviated. And I know the whole escrow situation is probably what's keeping a lid on XRP price. And the way to take that lid off is to get those out of escrow, because the use case is building and people need them. And that literally is what we believe and see Ripple doing. Okay, so as they do that, every new development that creates a demand for XRP, that somebody needs to hold XRP or use XRP, that's chipping away at that escrow amount. And eventually, when all that's gone, that's when you're going to see the true price appreciation, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be.
Now, how does the rest of Wall Street really feel about Ripple and XRP? Because we've been kind of attacked, we've been forgotten about. Now we're starting to get a little bit more attention, and obviously you have very nice thoughts about Ripple and XRP. But the conversations that you're having on Wall Street, how was it a few years ago versus where we're at right now?
Depends who you talk to. So we talk to people in the ETF industry who are always forward thinking, what's the next product, what's the next wave? So they're all open to it, okay? So if you look at the financial investment side, all the ETF companies are open to it. They want to have it. We also all are really intrigued by really fast transaction times. We have to negotiate with our brokers. We're wiring back and forth margin calls, okay? So you get a margin call, whatever, $10, $20, $30 million a day, depending on the move. You got to send that money somewhere. You have to negotiate to not pay a wire fee or to pay a smaller wire fee. That's absolutely ridiculous. We've got it down where the wire goes the same day, okay? But that's absolutely ridiculous. We should, what's being worked on here is instantaneous movement of assets, instantaneous settlement. That's what everybody wants. Now, there's traditional Wall Street that overlaps with the banks. There's no way they want it, okay? They're coming around because they know it's a movement that's not going to stop. But if you have a currency desk, okay, you're taking a VIG. Every time you use your American Express card, not to pick on American Express, I like them, but they're converting currency and taking a little bit from you, okay, on their currency desk. This technology, this blockchain technology, is going to wipe that out. That's going to go away. A giant profit center is going to disappear for people, okay? It's just like the first or second speaker when they gave an example of your average restaurant, 3% margin, and they're paying 3% to the credit card company, and that 3% go away, you double their margins. Credit card company's not going to be happy with that, right? Now, that said, some of their risk is going to go away. The reason they have those trading desks to trade currencies, to trade whatever they're trading cross-border, is they have risk too. Currency prices fluctuate, things like that. So their risk is going to go down once they learn how to use the system. So I think the reluctance that may still be embedded in there are people protecting a franchise that's taken a VIG from everybody, but that'll go away. They'll figure out other ways to make money.
And how important do you think that RLUSD is going to be in onboarding? I mean, we've already seen a couple $100 million has been minted already by Ripple. The adoption's growing pretty rapidly. But the traditional space, sometimes they're not ready to get right into a cryptocurrency. But the stablecoin explosion that we're seeing right now is massive.
Yeah.
And Ripple appears to have kind of jumped ahead, taking a kind of a quantum leap with the acquisition of Hidden Road and then the back-end settlement of that $3 trillion per year now with RLUSD as collateral. How key is RLUSD to the plan?
I think it's really key. I also think Ripple could speak to it better than I could.
Okay.
We got to ask them.
Okay, we'll do that. And what else are you here ready to learn about as far as XRP while you're here in Vegas with us?
Again, the questions we get from investors is, when's the price going to go up? That's what everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
Well, the only way that we can figure that out, and we have a 22-page paper that's not public yet. I got to figure out how to do that our analyst did. And he went over all the legitimate pricing models for XRP. And again, it came to between $5 and $4,300, depending on your timing and your use case. For me, it's supply, demand, and velocity. So if it takes 5 seconds to settle a transaction, how many XRP did that use? Can you really do it 12 times a minute? Can you really do that 24 hours a day? So how much XRP do you really need? Those are all basic questions that need to be answered for the velocity models. And that'll happen over time. We are literally still in a nascent industry. We're all sitting here. This is going to get bigger every single year. But the usage of XRP, the use case of the Ripple ledger is, I think, probably exploding from what you're talking about here. All of that is going to help. And then as arbitrageurs come in to get rid of those price differentials so that things can trade more easily, it's just going to take time, but it's going to happen. And things happen, little things like taking advantage of money, that happens faster than you think. When people want to make money, that happens faster than you think. When you're trying to change an entire infrastructure and a way of doing business, which is what we're talking about here, ultimately, that happens slower than you think. So give it time, but it's happening.
Awesome. Well, Sal, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in the XRP family now. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, XRP.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Can we do it?
Guys, something we are all greatly interested in and why we're all here. Securing